Good afternoon, boys and girls. My name is Mrs. Willifeed, and I'm going to do with you today the revision of the CRJ and the CPJ for EMS. Let's see what is important of the journals. Why is it important? The first thing that you must take into account is that we are busy with the accounting cycle. And if we are busy with the accounting cycle, first we looked at the transaction, and then the source document, and then we look at the journal. So the third step in your accounting cycle will be your journals. So for grade 8, there are two journals, the CRJ and the CPJ. And you already know that the CRJ is for cash receipts and the CPJ is for cash payments. Now, let's delve a little bit deeper. What is a cash receipts journal for? What is it used for? Is to record all cash receipts. So that means it's money coming into the business. Examples of receipts that you may have is capital contributions by the owner, service fees received from known to us as current income. So when you deliver a service and you receive for it, a fees for it, you get a current income. Then you have interest on a fixed deposit that you may have, interest on a current account, commission income, or a rent income. If we look, what is the source documents that can be used? Normally for service fees or current income, it will be a cash register type or a cash register roll. Remember to look at your kind of business that you have, because if you have something like an electrician, maybe you won't have a cash register and then you will issue a receipt. So normally for current income or service fees, you will have a cash register, and for the rest, you will have a receipt. Then if we look at something like the interest on the current account, then we look at things like an EFT. If you got an EFT payment, then you will see this type of source document that you will use is your bank statement. Now, what do we see if we look at a cash payment journal? What is the journal used for? It's to record cash payments. So that means money is flowing out of the business. Now let's look at the examples that we can have. Maybe the owner draws cash from the business, or you purchase an asset, for instance, land and buildings, vehicles, or equipment, or you have payments for expenses like stationery or telephone or insurance or stuff like that. What source documents do you use? If you pay via the internet or an EFT, you will use a bank statement, or a transaction like a bank charges that will appear on the bank statement, then your source document will be a bank statement. So what do we do? Because we're going to have the examples that you're going to have in the exam as well now is going to have CRJ and CPJ transactions that is going to be jumbled up. So first you must analyze the assignment that you're going to have. So you have to decide what you must do. Then normally it's easier to take two kinds of color pens, or you can write next to a CRJ or CPJ, and then you take the two colors and you read every transaction in line what is important. So for instance, say it's a CRJ transaction, then you can do it in yellow, and if it's a CPJ transaction, you do it in green. Then you take that information. So for instance, you decide as a CRJ is yellow, then you take the yellow transactions to your CRJ and the green transactions to your CPJ. And if the assignment requires it, you add up your journal. So let's look at an example. So read every transaction and be very careful of what you're reading. So just let's look at the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to decide on what is asked. They say use the information provided to complete the CRJ and the cash payment journal of Arthur's accountants. It's not necessary to total the journal. So in this case, it was not necessary to add up the journal. So let's look at the first transaction. They say the owner of Ash deposited 60,000 Rand directly into the bank account of the business, receipt A1. So you know that this will be a CRJ transaction because the business is receiving the money. Then if we look at the second transaction, it said rent needs to be paid for the month and 1 month's deposit, rent as a deposit as well. pay Rudy rent via EFT. So now you make an internet payment for the space that was rented to do in business, 10,000 Rand per month. But be very careful now. They said pay for a month and pay a deposit. So now you're going to pay 20,000 Rand. The transaction on the 5th said, buy computers and other equipment from Compton for 90,000 Rand and pay by debit card. Now, what in the world would that be? If you pay by a debit card, it actually means that you pay by internet. So you will see this on your bank statement. On the 7th, draw 1,000 Rand from the local ATM to pay the cleaners wages. So again, you're going to pay something. And because you drawn it from the ATM, your source document will be a bank statement. Then if you look at the transaction on the 9th, the first client was helped to do a books. Service fees received according to the cash register roll, 19,000 Rand. So now it's money that you received. Right, let's look at the transaction on the 10th. Stationery needed to be bought for the accountants. So you're buying something. The officer manager puts it in order at Welton's and the order for all was delivered. Pay via internet after it was authorized. 5,000 Rand. You paid it per internet, so you paid the electronic funds transfer, so you can either write bank statement or EFT. On the 14th, withdraws money from the local ATM, 2,500 Rand. So you take money from your account. Let's see what they did. Pay the cleaner 1,000 Rand for the week's wages. So you pay wages, and the rest the owner withdrew to pay his daughter's school fees. Remember the business equity concept that the owner's accounts and the business accounts must be separate. So this will be drawings because he's paying personal stuff for this. On the 16th, the cleaner asked for cleaning material. The office manager buys the material from the local Pick and Pay and paper debit card. So again, you're going to see on your bank statement that there was a transaction. On the 18th, the order for paper was delivered from Walton's, 5,000 Rand, as well as a computer monitor. So paper would be stationery and your computer monitor will be equipment, and you bought it for 10,000 Rand and you pay via EFT. Then on the 21st again, withdraw money for wages. You withdraw money again from the ATM for 1,000 Rand. So again, it is a payment. Let's look at the next transaction. Says service fees rendered for a big client, 7,000 Rand. The client paid via EFT. So they've paid via the internet. So you will have a proof of payment that you will receive, and you will see it on your a bank statement. One of the opus officers are sublet to an attorney, Slim Shady, receive the rent via the internet, 5,000 Rand. So now you receive the rent via the internet and it's 5,000 Rand. Then services rendered to the local high school. So again, it's money that you receive for auditing services and according to the cash register roll. So you received the money at the business, and on the internet, you received it in your bank account immediately. Then the next transaction said, money withdrawn to pay wages of the cleaner. So you're paying the wages of the cleaner again. A monthly fee, a weekly fee stays the same. So a weekly fee, if you look there, was 1,000 Rand. So it will be 1,000 Rand again. The owner also withdraws money for personal use, 5,000 Rand. And that would be drawings. But now you must be very careful because you withdrew 1,000 Rand plus another 5,000. So you withdrew 6,000 Rand. Then on the 31st, authorize the internet payment, so electronic funds transfer for the two accountants, V-Smart and B-Brains. So can this be one transaction? No, because you're paying two different people. Salaries for the month and a 7,000 rand for both or for each. So each of them, for both of them, it's 70,000 rand. So each of them will get 35,000 rand. If you take the 70,000 and you divide it by 2. The two accountants earn the same salary. So it's very important to read the whole transaction. And then if you receive a bank statement from Shady Bank, first, bank charges is something that you will pay, but now they also said interest received. Now, if you receive interest, then it will be on your CRJ. So now you have your CRJ transactions in yellow and your CPJ transactions in green. So now, what is the final product? It would look like this. Now, let's focus on a few very important things. The first thing here, they said they issued receipt REA1. That is why it's there. Why is it not in analysis of receipts? It is because the money was deposited directly into the bank account. It's like playing Monopoly. You don't go past start, you go directly to jail. So they didn't go past the business to pay it in, and the business had the opportunity to pay it in. You paid it in directly into the bank account. The other one that you have to look at in the CRJ is here on the 26th. There is 2 transactions. Now, normally, we would say 5,000 rand in analysis of receipts, 10,000 rand in analysis of receipts, and 15,000 rand in bank. But why does it look like that? Because Slim Shady paid it into the internet, and the service fees was paid at the business. That's why it's 10,000 rand, and the cashier at the business went to bank it, and it was for current income. Then if you look at the bank statement on the last day, the interest on current account, bank statement is always a direct deposit into the bank, and that's why it's not in analysis of receipts. It's not added because they said it was not necessary to add. So the current income or the service fees is in your current income account, and then you must be very careful to make sure that your details here are correct. Capital, rent income, interest on current account. Right, let's look at the CPJ quickly, at the few things that is important. The first one was just remember that you paid a deposit and 1 month's rent. That's why it's 70,000 rand. Computers is always equipment. Remember, when you draw cash at the ATM, it is always cash is your name of payee here because you don't pay somebody specifically. Then if you look on the 14th, we also paid cash, but you paid 1,000 rand for wages and 1,500 rand and for the owner's daughter's school fees. That was drawings, and that gives you amount of 2,500 rand that you withdrew from the bank. Then on the 16th, remember that cleaning materials always consumable stores. Then on the 15th, remember you bought paper, that is your stationery, and 1,000 rand, that was the computer monitor, that is equipment. So total amount would be 15,000 rand. On the 21st, it was also money that you drew from the ATM, that is why it's cash. And on the 28th, remember again, you paid the 1,000 rand for the wages and the 5,000 rand, that was the drawings. Then on the 31st, you paid your 2 accountants, total 70,000 rand, but because it's 2 per people that has to get 2 different electronic funds transfers, it will be 2 different amounts. And then for Shady Bank, that was your bank charges. Again, make sure that your descriptions here or your details in your sundry accounts is correct. The reason why it was not added up is because, again, they said that it was not necessary for you to total it. So please ask your teacher to complete the attendance register that Mr. Potgieter has sent to all the schools. If you want to do a quiz, there is the link to your quiz that will also be sent to you now. And here are the QR code as well. There are going to be a few questions for you for your CRJ and your CPJ. Good luck for the revision, and I know that you guys are going to do well. So please don't stop working hard. Thank you.